Good morning, my friends. This is Angie Stewart, and we are here live with the Conscious Living Spiritist Group, the Conscious Living family. Welcome to all of you. Sunday morning is beautiful Sunday. We are here, continue our moral improvement, getting better and better every single day. And to continue this, we are going to have another lecture, another opportunity to learn, another opportunity to be a better person, and also spreading this loving energy to all our friends, our families around. So don't think about the pandemic. Think about how many good things you are actually learning in a faster way. So that's how we have to think. Let's think positive all the time. So welcome to the ones that are arriving. Hello, Gisele. Hello, Juan. Hi, Biga. How are you? So today we are going to have a beautiful lecture with our friend. She is a worker of a conscious living, Claudia Medeiros, Claudinha. And the title of her lecture is The Will to Change. Very important to all of us. So stay with us, and in a few minutes we will have her. But just to start, let's start reading a passage of a book, this beautiful book, Our Daily Bread. And the title we are going to read today is number 2, and the title is Pause and Think. So I will read it for you. Pause and think. The miracles I do in my Father's name speak for me. This is from Jesus, and it's on John 10:25. And it goes like this. The preoccupation of the ordinary individual relative to family traditions is commonplace, as well in the earthly endeavors to which they usually lend themselves, exalting the conventional position that this distinguishes their personality. However, in true life, no one is known for similar processes. Each spirit brings with him the vivid history of his own acts, and only by his own actions and achievements is he known for his merits and demerits. With the disclosure, we do not wish to affirm that the world is deprived of indisputable advantages. Nonetheless, it is imperative to comprehend that the verb has tremendous potential, which we received by the infinite mercy as a divine resource. It is indispensable to realize we are achieving with this gift from the eternal being. In that respect, the affirmation of Jesus is dressed in imperishable beauty. What would we think of a Savior who would institute such regulations for humanity without sharing its difficulties and impediments? Jesus Christ initiated his divine mission among peasants and laborers. He lived among irritable doctors of law and rebellious sinners. He walked among the sick and the afflicted. He ate stale bread with the humble fishermen and fulfilled his stately task amidst 2 thieves. What more can you ask for? If you long for an easy life and distinguished positions in the world, remind yourself of the Master. Pause and think. Beautiful message, powerful message. So with this, my friends, let's close our eyes for a few minutes And let's do our initial prayer. Dear God, our Master Jesus, thank you so much for another opportunity of being here together, online, learning your beautiful teachings, helping us to put them in practice. At this moment, we would like to welcome all the enlightened spirits, our guardian angels, the spiritual protectors of conscious living, to come closer to us, helping all of us to be able to fully understand the message that our friend Claudia Medeiros will bring to us tonight, today, from her studies. We ask a special protection for her so she can be well inspired and she can help all of us to be able to fully digest the teachings. Please stay with us now and always. So be it. So, my friends, right before bringing Claudia to our screen here, I just want to remind you that on April 18, 1857, Allan Kardec published the Spirit's Book. So we are celebrating these beautiful teachings of the Spirit's Book that is actually, I wrote here because I'm bad with math, 164 years. Can you imagine? 164 years ago, Allan Kardec published the Spirit's Book, and this book is up to date until now. Unbelievable. We should all study this book because these questions are always enlightenment for all of us. So with this said, let's bring our dear guest of today. Hello, Claudia.
Hello, Angela. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Very good. Thank you for being here with us. It's a pleasure to have you, and we are excited to learn with what you are going to bring to us too.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So I'm going to leave, and I will leave you with the presentation. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again for the invitation. Before I even start, I'd like to remind you that without charity, there is no salvation. And considering this is the very first time we're going to be using this technology, this is an opportunity for you to be quite charitable with this presenter, okay? So the title of our talk is The Will to Change. And we're going to be dividing the sentence into different moments. We're going to be exploring the verb to change. As spiritists, we have learned for quite a long time that we are imperfect spirits. We are imperfect spirits in the path of enlightenment. And we are not here on earth just as tourists. No, we are here to learn quite important things. We are here to learn, first and foremost, how to love. We are here to learn how to perfect ourselves. We are here to have this opportunity to actually transform our vices and our character flaws, okay? And we are here to actually contribute to the better of the world itself. We understand that the planet itself is also in the process of change. We have known this for quite some time. So we are imperfect spirits, and we live in this world of trials and atonements. We are at the place where we are supposed to be. As we like to say, nobody was sent here by mistake. So we are right here. So we are all moving towards becoming something else. The earth is transitioning, has been transitioning for quite some time to get an upgrade, right? So the earth is transitioning to becoming a regeneration world. And we are also, like every one of us who live here and who are imperfect spirits, are also like evolving. So, as spiritists, we've all known this from before. I mean, we've known this for a while, and we know that the salvation is not something that comes from outside. It's really, yes, we don't save ourselves from our shadows, from our vices alone, of course not, but we know that we are really the ones who need to decide to change. But we were doing it, taking our time perhaps because we believe and we have plenty of evidence on the process of reincarnation. And sometimes we could think, like, let's just, maybe it's just so hard to change ourselves. Maybe we can leave it for another opportunity. So we were busy with life. We just, with all distractions that we always had and so forth, and just like doing the best we could. And then there was the year 2020. And needless to say, the year of 2020 brought tremendous changes to the way that we live our lives, to the way that we think, the places where we work. It has brought a lot of pain and suffering to a lot of people. Many losses of all natures, financial losses, losses of health, loss of material life. And it feels like the earth, well, they say the earth may be in the process of speeding up the changes, right? So the planet keeps changing and we keep changing. However, during this time of the pandemic, we are actually faced with a lot of our fears that we didn't have before, a lot of our fears that we were just too distracted and we decided not to look prior to this pandemic. Now we are facing with them because we had more time to do that. We had more time to look within ourselves. And perhaps what we saw are things that we know are traits, are flaws that hinder our path to evolution, that perhaps pulls us away from a conscious contact with God, perhaps makes us vibrate in frequencies that we separate ourselves from the good spirits, and we became perhaps more open to the influence of spirits of a lower order. Okay, so we are faced with that, and many of us may decide to, this is actually an opportunity, right? As we have learned in Spiritism, as imperfect spirits, we do learn through pain and suffering. One day we'll learn through love, but we're still not there yet. And in these painful times, yes, and as Angela mentioned earlier, yes, it's an opportunity for us to speed up the process of transforming ourselves, because change is this transformation. Okay, so as I reflect on our own process, what I've seen is sometimes we want to change. We want to change. However, we have this idea that, you know what, this jealousy, this envy that I feel, this anger, this intolerance to other people's thoughts, these behaviors that I may have that cause me to regret later, well, it doesn't serve me anymore. And we decided to actually, perhaps foster actions that will help me transform it. However, what we find sometimes is that we push and pull at the same time. We we believe that we are eternal beings, but then we keep living as if there was just one material experience, right? We consider ourselves Christians, but our thoughts and our actions may not reflect what the Master teaches us. And now that we are awake and aware of these limitations, of these vices, sometimes we are ashamed. We feel shame and we feel guilt and we feel weak. We feel defeated. Okay? So thank God what is Spiritism that actually brings us this understanding of ourselves and the understanding of this life and the afterlife. So when I was preparing this talk, I was reflecting on. Now, actually, this talk was inspired by a passage that Emmanuel wrote on in Living Spring, and it is a beautiful, beautiful message that actually um, helped us reflect on this duality, on this contradiction between our wanting to change and our doing actions that actually prevents us or actually takes us towards a different path, removes us away from the process of change. And if you allow me, I'm actually going to read this passage because no interpretation of ours would be as beautiful as what Emmanuel brings here. And we believe that this is very important for the times that we live now and the opportunity that presents to us. So the passage is called Clarifying Affirmation. And it starts with a passage from John chapter 5, verse 40, where Jesus says, Yet you do not want to come to me and live. All those who strive for the sublimation of the individuality need to understand the supreme value of the will in the spiritual growth. The churches and schools of Christianity are full of learners who glimpse Jesus' divine powers and recognize his magnanimity, but experience strong vacillations nevertheless. They believe and disbelieve. They help and refuse to help. They organize and disorganize. They are illuminated by the faith and let distrust darken their spirit. This is because they expect the Lord to take care of their immediate physical needs, but they do not want to go to Him to grasp eternal life. They ask for miracles from Christ's hands, and yet they do not accept His precepts. They ask for His consoling presence, yet they do not follow His footsteps. They love to listen to Him on the edge of the serene lake as He preaches hope and comfort. Yet they refuse to share the toil of the streets with Him through sacrifice for the victory of the good. They flatter Him with flowers in Jerusalem, yet they avoid showing goodness and understanding before the frantic and sickly multitude. They ask Him for blessings of resurrection, yet they hate the cross of thorns that regenerates and sanctifies. They could be part of the edifying vanguard, and yet they do not want to be. They clamor for the divine light. Yes, they are afraid to forsake the darkness. They yearn for better conditions in life, yet they detest the idea of renewing themselves. Thus, we can see that it is easy to eat the loaves multiplied by the infinite love of the Divine Master or to rejoice in His healing power. But in order to experience the abundant life of which He is the sublime ambassador, simply wanting and believing are not enough. The persevering will of having learned to toil, to serve, and grow spiritually are also needed. I don't know about you, but this lecture, this passage really touches me because I see myself in that. I see that, and I would say many of us have that, and we are so touched by the message of Jesus. We are so touched by the message that is brought to that. We see miracles all the time. We just have to look around us. We have the blessings of actually having the doctrine and having the New Testament and having the examples of Jesus. And yet, we are marveled by that. And for some reason, that doesn't serve sometimes as a motivation for change. Or it does serve, and we start, but perhaps our will to change is a little too weak. Okay, so that can really cause us a little bit of anguish, because despite our wanting to change, uh, perhaps our will is not that strong. And sometimes we wonder if can we even change ourselves. After all, some of the vices that we carry, well, we've had them for a long time. Some of them may be derived from this present experience, but so many of those, uh, only God knows how long I have been cultivating them, how long I have been working on them in previous experiences, right? So that can be somewhat discouraging. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to look at um, in the doctrine, in Spiritism, what the spirits have to say about our possibility, our capability to change. So we're going to look at this wonderful book, which is, we are, as Angela said, we are celebrating the anniversary of the publication of the Spirit's book. And the Spirit's book gives us wonderful news. And what we have right here is on chapter 22, on the moral perfection, on question 909, it asks, Kardec asks the spirits, could humans always overcome their evil tendencies through their own efforts? And the answer is yes, and sometimes with very little effort. What they lack is willpower. How few of you make such an effort, however? Okay. So that's great. I think that is wonderful news, and I am so happy the spirits really trust us in this process. Okay. What I would have to do here, what we could do, is actually look at, especially because, at least to us, it doesn't feel like a little effort to change those vices, to change these character flaws that no longer serve us. So if we look a bit closely at the question itself and the answer, let's just explore that. First, that is the word always, which is, again, brings us like great hope that, yes, we are able to do it, to overcome evil tendencies. As evil tendencies, again, if we are looking outside ourselves with a very judgmental way of looking at other people, we may consider evil tendencies something like quite dramatic, and we may say, well, at least I'm not like them. No. What's talking here is about our own evil tendencies. And even if we're not committing horrendous crime in the eyes of the criminal law, this talks about these evil tendencies are our jealousies, our envy, pride, the egocentric tendencies that we have. Because again, the ego is quite interesting. The ego actually sometimes tells us that not only that we are better than some people, but they actually may lie to us, saying that and making us believe that we are perhaps less than we are. So that is an evil tendency, because when we do not embrace, we do not accept who we are and our potentialities, well, it's evil because it really removes us away from this close contact with God. So what it says right here, that we can overcome those evil tendencies with our own effort, okay? And what really, what we lack is willpower. Okay, what lacks is willpower. Okay, well, thank you very much, spirits. So now we're going to be exploring what the will is, because it tells me that if I have it, if I have the will, we will very easily overcome our evil tendencies, our vices, our character flaw. Okay, so I want to invite you to look at the next slide. And this is a proverb that we know quite well. And it says that where there is a will, there is a way. Okay, where there is a will, there is a way to overcome my evil tendencies. There is a way to overcome, to become a person that's less proud, less judgmental, less aggressive on social media, less envious of the success of my brother and sister, right? Less intolerant to a different opinion than the one that I have. So maybe that is a will. So with will, maybe that is a way, okay, that I'll be able to actually change. So when we look at that, we're going to be looking at the word will. And what will can be defined as the main potentiality of the soul. It is what inclines us to move, to want, to stop doing things that doesn't serve us anymore. Okay, it is the driving force in our destinies. Okay, it is not the same as wish, right? It's not the same as wish. Sometimes these two words can be used interchangeably, but it's not the same as wish because, I may wish to be a better person, right? I may wish to to lose weight. I may wish to to not gossip as much. Not that I do that, but it's just an example. You got it. So I may wish to be better, but you see how vague that wish is? It is something in the future that I'm projecting, something that I want to be, like a better person, and this and that. However, it is the will, okay, that actually pertains to the actions that I will have to do in order to get to what I want. It is the propelling force that sustains me with the actions that I have to do. Okay? So if my will is weak, I'm not going to get what I wish for. Okay? If my will is weak, I am not going to cultivate thoughts that actually will bring me to what I actually desire. If my will is weak, I am not going to be opening myself up to the support of the good spirits to do that actually will help me getting to the destination that I projected. Because again, when we have the will, and it's not, and that's the wonderful thing about us, because again, about us as spiritists, when you become a spiritist, because we understand that we are never alone. And it's a good thing because we are never alone. But that may not be so good thing because we are never alone. So if I cultivate thoughts that of higher vibration, like if my wish is for me to become a better person, for me to become more benevolent and more patient towards my brothers and sisters, my thoughts are going to be sustained by the will to change. But okay, this and that, I'm going to be opened up to the help of the good spirits. So spirituality will be supporting me here. And if it is first and foremost the will of God that my transformation takes place, that my goal is achieved, that what I so wish and desire will be good for me and my growth, this will happen. Okay, so this is quite interesting. And what I'd like for us to do now is that we explore the concept of will, the definitions and conceptualizations in the words of other spiritists authors. Okay, so what we're going to see here is a book by Leon Denis. And in this book by Leon Denis, the problem of life and destiny. And it is a wonderful, wonderful book because it this book focus on the main. In fact, we could get like a common theme for the book is the book focuses on the problems of anguish and pain and the great obstacles that we face in the life, and how and it helps us understanding and addressing the these problems vis-a-vis eternal life. Okay, so in the third part of the book, The Powers of the Soul, chapter 20, where Leon Denis talks about the will. Okay, and it's quite interesting because Leon Denis in this chapter, he talks about how Jesus taught us that we do have this great power within ourselves, like the heavens is within us, right? So, and he also cites other philosophies, non-Christian philosophies, and aligning their thought, because this concept of us having this interior power, okay, that actually is able to move things, okay, it's common. It's a common theme in different religions, and Leon Denis brings that in the chapter of this book. Okay, so to summarize, just like it's a wonderful chapter, but if I could just have like one sentence, that would be the sentence right here, like, a very short summary of what it says. Leon Denis says, by what means, it's a question, by what means can we put in movement those interior powers and direct them towards a high ideal? By the will. The persistent, tenacious use of this master faculty enables us to control our natures. It is by the will that we direct our thoughts towards a precise goal. Okay, that's what I mentioned earlier, a few minutes ago. That's when if we have, our goal is, it's a high ideal. We're not talking about material gains here. We're talking about evolving. We're talking about working in vices that actually impede our growth as spirits. Okay, so if we have the will to actually change it, okay, we have this ability to do so. It does not serve anymore to say that, especially in these times where things are moving so fast, it does not serve us anymore to say, well, I will have another opportunity to do so. No, the time is actually now. The time is actually now, when we do have within ourselves the power to do that. And we are never alone, as we have spoken before. Okay, so the theme of the will is not we have other authors that actually bring that, okay? And another author that we can actually cite is Joanna de Angelis. Joanna de Angelis, it's a book called Personal Triumph, Triunfo Pessoal. Joanna de Angelis, as we know, is expressed her thoughts in her words through the mediumship of Divaldo Franco. And she brings us something quite interesting in this passage about the will, because she brings the will, she conceptualizes it as something that we can do that we can strengthen. It's like it is that potentiality, as we mentioned before, okay? It's the greatest potentiality of the soul. We all have that. However, we can actually make it stronger, okay? So what Joanna brings us is that the will must and can be worked through mental exercises, the generation of interest and motivation to achieve self-realization, the conquest of resources of various kinds, especially in the transformation of instincts into feelings, of unhealthy behaviors or unhealthy habits in health. It is the engine that drives human feelings and aspiration towards the conquest of the infinite, being always greater the more it's exercised. So yes, so going back to the Spirit's book, yes, we can overcome our tendencies, right? We can overcome our evil tendencies. However, we do have to use our will, and even when our will is kind of weak, doesn't sustain us, and disappoint. We get disappointed. Well, what Joanne is bringing us, that it can actually be strengthened. So every time that I feel that I'm failing myself, like, you know what, well, I don't want to be aggressive in my interactions with people, be it in person, be it from a distance, be it like on social media. I don't want to do that. This is my wish. I don't want to do that. But I keep trying to actually modify my behavior. And every time that I'm able to have relative success, well, my will gets stronger. Okay. And even the times when I feel that I'm failing myself, the effort that I have exerted, okay, to control those behaviors, to control these emotions that don't serve me anymore, yes, that's how I'm also being, in the process of strengthening it. So it is wonderful, and I find that very, very, very inspiring, very inspiring. So what we'd like for us to see now is that despite the discouragement that we feel sometimes, our objective here was actually to bring some hope that we are in the path of enlightenment. Once we become really aware, we now have this, well, we always had that, but we become more aware that actually, first, we are not alone in this process. And despite our evil tendencies and our vices, we are always supported, and through the power of the will, we can actually change. I would like to bring us a story here. It's not a story. It is really, I'm going to be talking about Peter the Apostle. As spiritists, it's always wonderful. We find it wonderful when we look at the life of the apostles, we look at the life of them, and it's wonderful that we may look at them not as saints, okay? What really can potentially inspire us, it's not so much of their sainthood. No, what inspires us is actually their flawness, their human aspect of each one of these apostles. Okay, and Peter, in my opinion, Peter is a wonderful example of transformation, of his will to change. Okay, let's keep in mind that Peter was not a perfect spirit. He was far from that. He was not a perfect spirit. He was also in the path to evolution and to improve himself. So, but mind you, that he came to earth. And for this incarnation with Jesus, he came with a mission. So it wasn't random that Jesus chose his apostles. It was not a random process that he found Peter and his brother Andrew as they were fishing. No, the mission was already there. And he was ready, despite his imperfections, he was ready to actually follow Jesus. Okay, so just brief here. This is not the whole life of Peter, but I want to share with you because I am very, very inspired. And this figure, like in the New Testament, is perhaps the one that actually was together with Paul the Apostle, but Peter is also very, very inspiring to me because I identify myself in many of his character flaws. I identify myself, and we're going to be talking about those flaws as well. So Peter was a fisherman, right? So he was a fisherman, and with his brother Andrew. And one day when he was fishing, that he was approached. So Jesus comes to them, and Peter becomes the very first chosen apostle. So he had his life. He has his life. He had a wife and everything, and then he gives up everything to follow Jesus. His name was Simon, and Jesus gives him a different name. So now he's called Peter. Okay, and Peter has a very special meaning that Peter, it already reflects what he's going to become later. Okay, so he becomes Peter, and he becomes like perhaps one of the most loyal of the disciples, right? So he's going with Jesus everywhere. He's really loyal to Jesus, and he supports. He's just like the right hand of Jesus, right? However, Peter had many. So his will was there. Okay, he was absorbing all that knowledge. He was witnessing everything about that Jesus had to teach and all the miracles. The transfiguration is not, the picture is not here, but he was there as well. Okay, so he was that close to Jesus. Then what happened is, as he is fishing, um, as I mentioned, he was recruited and he follows Jesus. But despite all that, he still carries with him his impulsiveness. Peter spoke too much. He spoke without thinking. He was jealous. So he was Jesus' right hand, but he was really jealous of the other apostles. He was jealous of perhaps not being looked at as the favorite at all times. He he was ready to defend Jesus at all times. However, sometimes he was not able to refrain his tendencies to act in ways that actually contradict Jesus' teachings. Okay, so here we have in the picture, like this episode when the waters are in turmoil and all the disciples were like, "Wow, Jesus, they're very afraid of drowning," and Jesus appears and invite them to trust them. It's like, come towards me. So Peter is the only one who does that. That's how much he trusts Jesus, as Jesus like standing on water and he walks towards Jesus. He's transfixed by Jesus' uh, um, way of looking at him. However, in the middle of the path, his faith shakes a little bit and then he starts drowning. Okay, that's a representation that he also had fear. He also had fear despite being in company of Jesus, and he starts drowning, and Jesus picks him up. Okay, so on the other example here, where we have in the Garden of Gethsemane, when after the Last Supper, when the soldiers come to get Jesus, to arrest Jesus, and they come, and Peter is so keen of defending Jesus, and what does he do? He acts in a way that goes against Jesus' teaching of peace and love. He pulls a sword and he goes and to cut Malcolm's, like one of the soldiers. He goes to cut his ear, and for that he was reprimanded by Jesus, and who heals the soldier's ears. But the same person that was so keen of killing someone to defend Jesus is the very same person. Peter is the same person that just hours later denies even knowing Jesus. So he denied Jesus more than once, as we know, because he was afraid. Fear was there. So he was so angry before, to the point of hurting someone to defend Jesus, and he himself, out of fear, he denies even knowing him. Okay, so obviously, when Jesus go towards his crucifixion, and Peter is really consumed by great guilt. But then Jesus materialized, as we know, he materialized, and through this manipulation of fluids, he materialized himself, and he comes back. So he's able to present himself to the disciples, and he comes specially for Peter. Um, and what he gives Peter is this grandiose mission that actually will allow him to redeem himself. Okay? He makes gives the incumbents to Peter to actually do what? To found the church. Okay, so now Peter, the rock, became the founding rock of the primitive Christianity. So this arc of redemption, I believe, is quite interesting because, again, it actually brings us, at least inspires us to see that even the ones, okay, even the ones like who were like us, we have Jesus with us at all time. And even having Jesus with us, okay, through the words as we read before, Emmanuel, through having all these teachings with us, we still have our evil tendencies, okay, that make us act in this accordance to that, okay. But as we keep pushing towards changing our evil ways, as we keep strengthening the will, we will find redemption. We will find salvation, and the salvation would be saving ourselves from the imperfect state that we are. Okay? And that's the message, this reflection that I had for today. I thank you very much for your time and attention.
Very beautiful. Thank you so much, Claudia. Beautiful message. And when we start reflecting about Peter, we all have a lot of Peter inside of us, a lot.
Absolutely.
But I wish we all had the good characters of Peter too, because Peter was very strong, especially after he fully understood the message of Jesus. He had the awaken, the full awaken, and
Yes.
that's when he became this rock.
Absolutely, because again, the qualities were already there. So that's the beauty of it, because the same thing happens with Paul. So when he transforms himself after being touched by Jesus, it's really that. So the qualities were already there. What was blocking them, what's preventing them to achieve what they became, or this human component, right, which we all have, okay? But the potentiality was already there. And you're right, because once the transformation was there, so it was the same, this what he already brought with him, that was no longer being blocked and hindered by these the character flaws.
Yes, yes. Beautiful. The same with Paul. He was so
Sure.
intense, so powerful, but he didn't know exactly what he was doing. Well, in his thoughts, he thought he knew, but
Absolutely.
he also needed the awaken in the desert when he saw
Absolutely.
Jesus, and Jesus was like, so why do you persecute me? And
Absolutely. And it's like it's the same when you're right. So when Jesus come to Paul and asks, "So why do you persecute me?" So the way that we interpret that is it's Paul is remained the same in regards to his drive, in regards to his passions. However, the focus was completely different. Now he was living for Jesus. He was
yeah,
living to spread the message. He was no longer serving who and what he was serving before. And very similarly we have with Peter, when Jesus comes, when materialized, like the manipulation of fluids, he materialized and he comes to Peter. What he asks is, "Do you love me?" You know. So, and that's amazing, because that with that revelation, of course, he knew the imperfections that Peter had, because Jesus knows about our imperfections. Okay, and it's not new to him. But when we really, the invitation, the way that we could interpret that is an invitation to really reflect: do you love me? Do you love me? And once he says yes, and it really coming from his heart, so yes, you are ready to actually establish my kingdom on earth, meaning that building in concrete terms, my teachings.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And this is good for all of us to reflect, because I know a lot of people might be thinking, oh, but I'm so far away from Peter, so far away from Paul. I have so
Mhm.
many character defaults, but we all have beautiful gifts, and that's why we are here. We are all different. Maybe something I do well, you don't, and the same thing you and me. So you can teach me something. This is the beautiful thing, living amongst the society and participating in a spiritual center, because we are always learning, always an opportunity to improve. And we should never be discouraged when we commit a mistake, because God know we are little children. So he's like,
Absolutely.
okay, Angela, okay, fine, come on, stand up.
Mm-hmm.
You will
Mm-hmm.
do better tomorrow.
Absolutely, absolutely. But as you brought up in your presentation prior, when you're introducing me, these are times where these changes they become more urgent. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they become more urgent, and as we know, and as I have spoken also, like we do learn through pain and suffering, but times they are changing very fast, and it's an invitation for us to strive and actually speed up the process of our
Yeah.
moral transformation. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And because we are spiritists, we have a tendency, oh, I couldn't do this in this incarnation. I will do in the next one. Nah, nah. Let's not
Mm-hmm.
keep postponing, because we might be postponing for thousands of years. Let's
Exactly.
really face it and endure the difficulties, because transformations are not easy. Let's endure the difficulties in the best way possible, in the most in the most possible way that we can, because yes, we can, little bit at a time, but never postponing for
Mm-hmm.
our next reincarnation or something like that. That's very
Yes. Interesting, because even if we decided to postpone it, well, it's always a choice. We do have the free will to do so, right? It's always a choice, but we the consequences are also ours. So for every choice that is a consequence, for every action that is a reaction, what we sow we will reap. So then that's
important.
that's that's all good. That's all good. Meaning that we have Emmanuel, right? Emmanuel, look like Emmanuel, he can bring us these beautiful teachings today as we consider that he, in his romances we learn about his reincarnations and how close he was with Jesus, how close he was, how he was given the opportunity to follow, and he chose not to. Okay, and it's all good. It's all
Yeah.
good, whatever choice we make, but as long as we understand that there are consequences, right?
Exactly. Can take thousands of years. So, my friends, if you haven't read the book Paul and Stephen, it's a marvelous book. It's really a blessing, and you can know a lot about Paul, that was Saul, and you can also see a lot of Peter there. And it's so beautiful. And when we talk about Emmanuel, my favorite book ever is 2,000 years ago. I remember being
Yes.
on vacation in North Carolina, and by the pool in the summertime when I lived in New York, and reading and crying so deeply, and didn't I was so into the book, I didn't realize my surroundings. And I had one moment I put the book here, and I'm like reflecting, and I look at the pool, the whole pool is like, because I was so into the book, I was living the moment. Anyway, beautiful. Thank you so much,
Thank you so much.
Claudia. It was wonderful to have you here with us.
Thank
So
you.
let me remove you for now, and let's do our last assignment. So last assignments. Let's information for you guys here. So we are closed physically, but we continue our activities. So if you can always continue helping us, we need your help, because we will open the Spirit Center. We don't know yet. We need to follow all the regulations from our government, and also for the safety of the people. We miss the contact, being with everybody, but right now we can't. But if you can contribute to conscious living, there is the QR code that I believe is here. Well, it's on the top here. So if you approach your cell phone to the QR code, you will be brought to an area that you can actually make a donation. And if you need any information about our studies in English or in Portuguese, just go to our website. It's showing here is clsg.us. So you can get more information on our studies in English and in Portuguese. And we always have our lectures in English here every Sunday at 11 a.m. So it's a pleasure to be with all of you. So at this moment, my friends, I would like to invite all of you to close your eyes for a brief moment. You are in front of a screen, so it's really good if you just close and relax, and let's connect with the spirituality. Mother Mary, at this moment, we are so thankful with the beautiful teachings, with the beautiful lessons, with the beautiful examples of so many important souls that lived on earth, that we could connect with them, with their past, with their history, with their power, understanding we all have this inner power, this inner light. And many times we don't know, we are shy about it. We connect too much with our problems, with our difficulties, with our issues. But we all have so much love. We are always protected, guided. We only need to take this step forward to listen to our guardian angels, our benefactors, that are always inspiring us to use well our free will. So at this moment, we ask our guardian angels to inspire us, to protect us, to guide us throughout these difficult times of the pandemic. So we will all be able to reconnect sooner or later, to continue our moral improvement, to continue living here on this beautiful blue planet. And at this moment, we would like to send all these positive and loving vibrations to our blue planet, to the hospitals, to the nursing homes, to the jails, to all our friends and our families, wherever they are, so they can feel the seed of light in their hearts. And please help all of us to come back again to continue our moral improvement. Thank you so much, and so be it. Very good, my friends. Thank you so much for your presence. Thank you so much for being here with us. And I hope to see you soon, next Sunday or any other day that we have our studies. Have a blessed Sunday. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.